He's a Hall of Famer. He won 2 World Series titles, 2 MVPs, and he's a 14-time All-Star. Johnny Bench joining us on the program. Give me the names of the players in the first All-Star game you appeared in.
Well, I was sitting in the Astrodome, staying in my locker because I didn't want to trip anybody, spike anybody. And here goes Bob Gibson by. There's Willie Mays sitting straight across from me. And, of course, there's Ron Santo and Ernie Banks and Billy Williams. And then, it was such a list. Stargell walked by, and I'm just taking it all in. I'm 20 years old. Willie came across the room. Groman came across the clubhouse, looked me just straight in the eye and said, "You should have been the starting catcher." Made my life. I caught the 9th inning of that game, and it was a thrill. And, gosh, I mean, to think about the All-Star teams and to think about, Washington was the next year, but the year we were in Detroit, I think there were 33 or Fritzy will know, but tell us Fritzy high. But 33 or 38 Hall of Famers that actually were in the game in Detroit. That particular game, that's one that Reggie hit it up into the light standard, and I hit one in right center field, and Aaron hit one, and McCovey. And, I mean, it was just, it was so exciting because we didn't play interleague play. So here was Brooks Robinson and Harmon Killebrew and all the guys that were your idols as a kid growing up, and here you are on the same field with them.
Did you call the pitch that Reggie nearly hit out of Tiger Stadium?
Yeah.
Everybody talks about Reggie hitting the longest home run. It would have gone out if it didn't hit the light fixture.
Yeah.
But nobody talks about who called that pitch.
I didn't think we had to bring it up really today, even. I think unless there's someone of your crack staff thought about who called that pitch. Let's just talk about Bench and his bad fingers. Yeah, okay.
That was one of those home runs where because Reggie never got cheated. Like there's certain guys. I don't know if there was anybody who came to the plate where they were sitting dead red. Like he didn't. I don't know if he cared if he struck out, but he was going to get his money's worth when he went to the plate.
Oh no, he was there. I mean, he was the original of what we see today. We see all the grandeur and all the excitement and I'm still working out on the fingers, and what they're doing and who they're doing it to and what it all is. But Reggie was so exciting. Still is, still hungry, still anxious to do it. To be a part of it in the middle of it. And yeah, he's still swinging at everything that comes up there, especially if it's dead red.
We had a caller called in last hour, and he said, could you bring this up to Johnny Bench, that Bill Freehan, John Walkenfuss, that they had CTE, they had concussions. And we don't talk about that with baseball, but as a catcher, have you, been looked at for that? Did you have your bell rung or have concussions when you played?
I probably had 7 to 10 concussions during my time. I got beamed 3 or 4 times. I got run over at home plate. Had a real bad car accident when I was 18. I'm sure that I'm surprised I even walked out of that accident. But yeah, the impact was a drunk driver on the wrong side of the road, and I started to pass the bus, and there he was. He hit me right in the door. So you can imagine the impact of what that had on me and everything else. And I've been doing a lot of studies. Actually, we're starting a neurovisual institute in Cincinnati, and my doctor friend he treats 600 to 700 concussion patients a year because you can actually get a concussion from a whiplash. But I've suffered through these things, and I started looking at this many years ago because I was concerned about whether it would cause Alzheimer's or dementia.
Yeah,
we wrote a paper with the National Institute of Health with Dr. Ellis and Dr. Clark that talked about the neurovisual side of the training. And I'm very aware of what goes on, and I'm trying to be preventative. That's why I've joined with Regeneron on their project to get everybody aware of Let's Get Real About Skin Cancer. I've had 3 different episodes. I actually had to have Mohs surgery on 3 of my eyelids, my face, and my chest. And we're just asking everybody to go to letsgetrealaboutSkinCancer.com and do self-examination. Now, you go into your dermatologist and he'll find stuff, and he may freeze them and use the treatments and everything else to offset them. But I'm concerned about what my future life would be. That's why I started in with this. And so, you see the McMahons and you see different players. They get their bell rung. I see guys get foul balls, and they just, their eyes cross. And I never had experienced that. I saw stars. I get a deal in the stars. I don't know if you've ever heard that or saw that yourself. Well, you were a basketball player. You were a contact player. So
a contact player.
When the stars start sprinkling, I mean, they actually start to sparkle.
Yeah.
You can actually see those things. So, yeah, I'm doing everything preventative if I can. Where's my Funko?
It's back behind Fritzy.
I figured that.
Yeah, it's right next to him. We're talking to Johnny Bench, the Hall of Famer. Did you hear the comments by Barry Bonds that he said I did not. He's vindicated? Well, Marvin, would you play? He's on a podcast, and he was talking about the Hall of Fame.
People have to understand something is that the fact of is that I was vindicated. I went to the court. I was in federal court, and I won my case 100%. Where is the vindication of me in my own sport? That's what bothers me.
What
do you think as a Hall of Famer? Should Bonds be in?
Should bother him. It should bother him. It's the same thing with McGuire. They had it and everything else. We all assumed we did. We found Dandro or whatever it was at the time, which definitely wasn't illegal, supposedly in those days. I think Roger's been in that same situation. There's questions about certain Hall of Famers that basically may have used. There's shadows that have been around. It seems like there's a selection process of who, okay, let's get these 3 or 4 or 5 guys, A-Rod, Barry, Roger, Mark, let's get these guys and we'll make them our guys. And yet there's some, where there's questions about, you have no questions. I mean, you know who there might be, who was shadowed and everything else. And I think that, I think as long as, whether the courts have done it, or whether we're going to be the fact that he's guilty forever, sounds like, okay, I've been there, I've done that. He's speaking out saying, what do I have to do? The courts are.
But if they weren't testing, Johnny, at the time.
What's that?
If they weren't testing for steroids, that's what Bonds is saying. Baseball wasn't testing.
Well, that was the thing that really came out during the time that when cocaine was a part of it. Marvin Miller was really detested basically by owners because Marvin Miller was a guy who, as part of the Major League Baseball Players Association, he was sort of delaying the fact of when the testing could be because I think he thought that if the players were actually using, they needed to do something in order to get them off of it. Let's give a year or two and take that long. They're blaming Marvin for what became the steroid era. And I blame the trainers because, or physical trainers, whoever your guy was, the PT guy, because he's putting the stuff, I call it the blender era. I think it's when, you're saying, hey, I want to develop muscle. I say, okay, let's put this powder and let's put this shark stuff in there and we'll blend it. And then the guy next to you is bigger and stronger. And he said, well, what's he doing? Well, he's using this other powder. And if you went to GNC at the time or wherever certain places were sold, 80 or 90% of it had the drugs that would actually build muscle and do stuff and your performance enhancing. And then, he said, well, what about now? And then he said, well, he takes a B12 shot or he takes whatever shot. And guys who hit 12 home runs, next year they hit 40, all of a sudden they're making from 3 million to 13, 15 million. And it's hard to say that these guys, at this point could give a flip about what, they have the money in the bank. They improved themselves. We all went, everybody to be bigger, stronger, better. And so they use that as a crutch. But when you start putting your stuff in the blender and start getting certain things and developing health, I'd have loved to have stuff. I mean, you catch 154 days in a row like I did through one stretch, you would have loved to have had something that would, revitalize you and get you to the next level. And so we've gone through these different things in baseball, the greenies, the amphetamines, all the stuff that went along with it. You can drink, you can take 2 aspirin and drink a Coke and almost get it. You can take a diet pill and get it supposedly from what I'm told. So, I played without him. I remember one time though, and they were in the kit. They were in the trainer's kit. I went in we played like 15 innings on
You're
Saturday.
talking about the amphetamines.
Yeah, and I came in on Saturday, and Sunday I came in. I told the trainer, I said, I can't move. He opened up his kit and pulled out a pill and said, take this. A half hour later, I didn't ache at all. And it's like, well, why wouldn't you want to do this every day if you could feel like this? And then the next year they banned it. So now it's like you taking Advil or Aleve and Tylenol or whatever. And then tomorrow they say, no, you can't take it any longer. And you would say, wait a minute, I feel too good. This is helping me. I can play golf. I can run. I can do all these things. So, the Wonder Bra is performance enhancing.
But you're not wearing a Wonder Bra right now, are you?
No, these are just real. This is from non-workouts. I actually am, trying to worry about not pulling a fat muscle. So everything else.
The Shohei Ohtani phenomenon, and it's a dilemma with the Angels. What would you do if you ran the Angels with Shohei Ohtani at the trade deadline?
Trading? No, as a business person, no. As you're probably going to lose him anyway in another year or whatever the contract runs. But it's such a point where Trout's hurt and everything else. They ran through a period of time. They've spent $8 jillion to try to do it. Would I trade him? Yes. As a business person and an owner, no, I wouldn't trade him because I would keep him as the franchise. He would be there. And they're willing to spend money. They're willing to spend. They just haven't done it in the right way yet. They've gotten some players that haven't fit in or have been hurt or whatever. Trout's, how much longer can he sustain? Do they have, somebody take the Atlanta Braves, and take their blueprint and develop the minor leaguers and get this. And every time they come up with somebody, all of a sudden they're pitching, which no, we're hurt again. And all of a sudden you got Strider and you got Elder and you got guys that, it's like, boom, here they are. And they're, and then they score 6 runs in the first inning, seemed like by the first 2 or 3 innings. They need to take the blueprint. I told, the Reds years ago, I said, you've got to develop the farm system.
Ellie De La Cruz remind you of anybody?
Oh, reminds me of you. How much excitement that you bring to this whole deal. I mean, he is absolutely, how good is this? I mean, there's so many great players. Oh my gosh, there's so many great players. And this kid, the excitement, but it's like the enthusiasm, the smile, the what he does to a crowd, what he does to a dugout. And I'm watching the game now on Saturday or Sunday, and he was a shortstop, like Ron Hansen was back in the White Sox days, 6'6", and then he steals second, third, and then home, but before that he's hitting in the 9th inning. He's driving in runs into the gap, and he's a switch hitter. And it's like, where in the heck did this kid come from? We've heard about it since spring training.
Well, the most talented player you ever saw was who?
Wow. Probably Willie.
Willie Mays?
Yeah. I mean, obviously Joe Morgan is my hero and one of the guys that could win a game in every way and all that stuff. And every day he could get a base hit. He could walk. He could hit a home run. He'd get it a double. He would steal 80 bases and everything else. Willie had the flair. Willie had the stuff and everything else, the athleticism he had in the outfield, at the plate, and just the overall. But you just were amazed at, him and Joe, I guess, more than anything.
The name that always comes to mind, and he played in a bad ballpark, was Cesar Cedeno.
Oh, he was unbelievable. And I'd go into the training room. They'd be stretching him, and they'd take his leg and they put it back. And he'd go back behind his head. He said, I'm so stiff. I am so stiff. I can't move. I couldn't get to 90 degrees. And he's like stiff, and he couldn't do it. And he's everything else. And oh my gosh, he could run, he could throw, he could hit, and everything else.
Yeah, he was talented. Let's get real about skincancer.com. So you can go to that website, learn more, and take a pledge to see a dermatologist for an annual skin exam.
Will you do that? Are you seeing your dermatologist?
Yes, I actually saw my dermatologist a month ago. And
Good.
much to my wife's surprise, I came away with a great report.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. And that's the thing. You can have, you can also self-examine yourself. You can also have somebody look at you, a spot or whatever. And I've had the 3 different ones and everything else, and I have too many friends. Mike Schmidt has gone through so many melanomas and everything else, and some of them squamous, and some of them have been the basal cell carcinoma. But these non-melanoma cancers, you can go in and you can take care of it. The boy's grandfather, he looks like he got hit by a paint gun every time he goes to the dermatologist, but that's just the preventive medicine and everything else.
Yeah.
I appreciate you allowing us to talk about this, because I'm teaming with Regeneron. It's my 2nd year. We've really got a lot of the words out there, a lot of the news and notices out there for people to please see your dermatologist and please examine yourself.
Good to talk to you again, Johnny. Thanks for joining us.
Tell the boys hi. Tell Fritchie to put my Funko up on next to Bobby.
There it is. That's Johnny Bench, Hall of Famer. Fritzy, it's right behind you.
I see it. I love it.
Yeah, he sent that in. Or that was his son who I think sent it.
Yes.
Yes, I don't know.
Class act.